I'm Joanne Moore. I'm the director of the Duxbury Senior Center, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Senior Safety. Senior Safety is a collaborative effort with the Duxbury Council on Aging, the Plymouth Center for Active Living, the Pembroke Council on Aging, the Kingston Council on Aging, the District Attorney, Tim Cruz, our Sheriff, Joe McDonald, and PAC TV. It was created to bring valuable information to our senior community during this pandemic. The topic for today's episode is romance scams. Our guests for this segment are Plymouth County District Attorney Tim Cruz, Candy Weiler, and Marie Keefe. The Federal Trade Commission has reported that romance scams are on the rise at a rapid rate. Statistics showed in 2015, the agency received 8,500 complaints from victims who fell prey. In 2019, that number has increased to 11,500. The rise in this number is alarming, and the FTC states that this crime is dramatically underreported. Hello, District Attorney Cruz. Thank you for joining us for this segment. What can you tell us about romance scams?
Well, hi, Joanne. Thanks for having me on today, and it's great to see Candy Weiler and Marie Keefe here too to be part of this program that I think is hopefully going to be informative for the people that are watching regarding some of the things that are going on here, not just in our county, but throughout the Commonwealth and actually across the United States. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Tim Cruz. I'm the district attorney here in Plymouth County. And to get back to what the title of this program is, romance scams, unfortunately, have been around forever. They're very real. They're on the rise. And really what it is a romance scheme is really, it's a confidence trick. It involves faking romantic intentions toward a victim, gaining their affection, and then using that goodwill to commit fraud against that person. And as you just said, statistics from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center are very alarming. From the 11,500 reported cases in 2019, con artists who are posing as romantic suitors have built a total of $346 million from their victims. And like a lot of the scams and a lot of the issues that are out there right now, these crimes are very underreported and they are a problem everywhere.
Good morning, District Attorney Cruz.
Morning.
Could you tell us why we are seeing an alarming rise in this type of scam?
I think, as in most scams, the reason why it's on the rise is because it works. It's very successful for the con artists who are doing these scams. They seem very genuine. They seem like they're very caring, and they come across as very believable. And also, one of their most valuable assets nowadays is the internet. And when we go to schools and talk to young kids about, the internet's a great educational tool. It's opened up doors for all of us, but there are people out there who are abusing it. There are people out there who will use it to their benefit and to your detriment. So you need to be very careful. And prior to the internet, I think you used to see all the old movies with the con men that were out there that they were depicted, and they would seek out a victim. They would arrange some way to meet them. They would romance that victim. They'd be very charming. They'd be very patient. They'd wine and dine them, give them gifts, very expensive. They establish that, that trusting, loving relationship. And sometimes back in the old days, it would take a much longer period of time. It would take to develop. It would take several months. It might take a year. It might take some time for them to work on this. And it was once they were able to gain security in the people that they're talking to or that they're developing these relationships with, that they'd be able to gain access to, whether it be their information, which is very important, their bank accounts, and many times swindle them out of their savings, swindle them out of their jewelry, and swindle them out of the things that they've had in their lives for a long time and they want to keep in their families. So I think that nowadays, unfortunately, the internet and social media sites, and there's a ton of them out there, romance games have moved online, and the con artists now have an easier tool to swindle their victims.
Okay. Good morning, District Attorney Cruz.
Good morning.
Can you tell us how an online romance scam works?
Yeah, basically, the individuals are going online and they're developing fake online identities to gain somebody's affection and somebody's trust. They're mostly present on, dating, social media, gaming sites. They're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Nextdoor, Words with Friends. The list goes on of all the various apps that are out there that you can go on. And they prey on people's loneliness. They prey on people that are trying to reach out and have a conversation with somebody. And what they'll do is they will create a fake online personnel profile. They'll use a fake name. They use the identity of real people who potentially are trusted people, people that are in the military, people that are aid workers, people that are professionals working abroad, such as maybe a doctor working in an international organization or an oil rig worker. That's a big one that's out there now. And they'll also use stolen photographs of attractive people. That's known as catfishing. And the sole purpose in using these photos is to make themselves look more attractive, more somebody that you want to get to know, lure people in, asking them to contact them. And what they're really trying to do is establish a relationship as quickly as possible, endearing themselves to the victim and gain their trust. And when they do that, and once they connect with somebody, they're going to try to get them away from that social media chat room or chat, and suggest they have personal chats either by phone or through direct messaging or through email. And then they progress their way through. They may play coy. They may try to just develop that relationship with you. And then eventually they will create an illusion that there's something romantic, that there's a close relationship with this person, and something that they're going to put themselves in a position to take from you. They will charm their victims. They will romance their victims. And over the next weeks or months, they will escalate that relationship. Some of them may propose marriage, make plans to meet in person, but that in most cases is never going to happen. Eventually, when the scammer feels that the victim's truly invested in that relationship, the scammer is going to ask either directly or indirectly for money.
Gosh, that's awful. So District Attorney Cruz, what are some of the methods that the online scammer actually uses?
Well, scammers, like all the con artists that we deal with, whatever the scam may be, everybody should remember they're good at what they do. This is their job. This is what they do. And they go to great lengths to gain your trust and your interest. And they really hold, and don't forget, probably while they're doing it to you, they're also probably doing it to other people all around the world, because the internet gives them worldwide access to try to bamboozle somebody. So when you are trying to develop these relationships, they're not only just doing it with you, they're doing it elsewhere. So the communications that are exchanged between the victim and the scammer, they'll go back and forth over a period of time. And at some point, like I said, the scammer is going to shower the person with loving words. They're going to share personal information, whether it's true or not. And once again, they're going to be patient. They've got plenty of time because they have a lot of lines in the water. They don't need to pull you out of the water right now. They need to just string you along. And so you can develop that relationship. It's not going to go fast. It's going to be a slow process. And they're going to pretend to do various things. They're going to say, okay, I'm going to come and visit you. But those visits probably are never going to happen. They very rarely will meet the people in person, because it makes it much more easier for them and much more plausible for them to ask their victim for money in the future. Because what they're going to say many times is, oh, I'd love to come see you. I live in another country though, and I don't have the funds, or I don't have the resources, or my money's all tied up. It's tied up in a trust. It's tied up in a business trust. They're going to allege, we've had cases here in our county where they've alleged that they were working on oil rigs in the middle of the ocean, then building and construction industries, and they're engaged in projects outside the US. So that's always their ruse. They'll make a plan to come see you, but quite honestly, it probably is never going to happen. And once they gain your trust, once they've developed this relationship, and once your defenses are down, they're going to either subtly or directly ask you for monies, ask you for something that you own. Maybe it's something small. Maybe it's money for gas or travel money to come see you, a loan to pay off medical expenses for maybe a sick loved one that they have, banking information to assist them, like with an inheritance that they just got, that they're going to share with the victim after they have that promise of marriage. They might ask for credit card information to purchase those travel tickets, medical expenses for themselves or somebody that may be it, educational expenses. These are the things that they're going to just, once again, they've lured you in. Your guard is down. you don't want to believe that somebody could actually take advantage of you this way, because we're all smart people. We don't believe that somebody can do that to us. And once they need something, they're going to tell you they need a loan because of financial hardship, failed business, loss of employment. They were victims of muggings we've heard of. They're going to continue to go out there and once again and try to lure you into it.
Okay. District Attorney Cruz, can you tell us why these romance scams are so successful?
Yeah, once again, I mean, we're dealing with scammers who are really good. Like I said, that is their job. Their job is to talk to you and to try to get you to believe them. And as they're talking to you, like I said, they're talking to people all probably around the world, and they will play their victims. That's what they do. They'll talk to you a few times today. They're probably talking to somebody 5 minutes later. Somebody completely different with the same sort of scenario, the same sort of scam. They're charming. The fact that they're thieves doesn't mean they're not smart. Doesn't mean they're not charming. Doesn't mean that they can't talk a dog off a meat wagon. That's what they do, and they're really good at it. They're going to send you love poems. They're going to send you sex games and emails. They're going to ask you to send intimate photos. That's where you have to really be careful. When they're asking things from you like that, because if you did that, if you participated in something like that, that very well would be something they're going to use to blackmail you later on. So if you did send an intimate photo to this person that's out there, first of all, remember, the internet is not anonymous, and everybody's out there on the internet. Anything you put on it, even if you think it's only going between yourself and that person, it's out in that world. And once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. It's out there and it's floating around somewhere. So once you put them in a position where they're going to be able to blackmail you by something you gave them, they're going to manipulate you for money. They're going to manipulate you for the use of your bank accounts, and they're going to use them or even money launder through their various accounts. They're going to appear to be building a strong, loving relationship with the victims, once again, about the promise of marriage. Now think of that for a second. Somebody's promising you they're going to marry you, and they've never met you face to face. But once again, they deal with people who sometimes are lonely, perhaps have lost their spouse, and their family, their kids have all grown up, and maybe they've gone on, and they're lonely. And that's what it comes down to. And you want companionship, and you want to be able to talk to somebody, even about little things that have happened during the course of your day. So I think sometimes people will look beyond that, and they'll put themselves in a position, making themselves much more vulnerable to these individuals. And then, if they're alleging to you that they live somewhere else, if they live in another country, they may, if they say to you, well, you should come visit me, first of all, it probably is not going to happen. But I'll tell you one thing, if it does happen, you need to talk to somebody, because that can be incredibly dangerous. Going someplace where you only met somebody online and you've never really met them, don't really know anything about them other than perhaps some photographs, some videos that could be taken from anywhere and taken from anybody else's background. It could pose a risk, obviously, to your financial safety if you went somewhere, but also your personal safety. I mean, you hear these horror stories where people, they arrive in other countries and they're beaten, they're robbed, or they're even killed. So you have to be very careful.
District Attorney Cruz, have any of these crimes been investigated or prosecuted?
Yeah, Marie, they have. The FBI investigates multiple cases of this. Out of the reported cases last year, they found that the average loss for a romance fraud victim, if you are in your 20s, the average loss is like $770. If you're in your 50s, it's probably about twice as much, $1,500, $1,550. 60s, $3,000, 70s, $6,450. And we have people, as we get older, you acquired more things throughout your life. You have more. Why are they going after seniors? Because seniors have acquired more throughout their life. Unlike, young kids that are just starting out there who are probably very gullible. And now they're using the fact that you may have lost somebody in your life or something fell apart in your life, and they're using that against you. And they have had people, that people refinance their homes, they cash out their retirements. They will go where the money is. And they know, once again, that the seniors generally going to have the majority of the assets. So that's where they're going to go. Last year, federal prosecutors, because most times if there are cases that come out of this, because it's very difficult to chase these down. Once you send the money out, you're probably never getting it back. That's why it's so important not to send it out, or your information, keep it very guarded. But many times you end up dealing with federal prosecutors because like I'm the Plymouth County DA, that makes me the state prosecutor for everything within Plymouth County. If we went outside to say Norfolk County, say Dedham, that would be the Norfolk DA. If you wanted statewide jurisdiction of a state crime here in Massachusetts, it would be the Attorney General. And if you want a federal crime, if it passes either from Massachusetts to another state or outside our country, that's a federal violation. And, quite honestly, there's so many of these. I mean, think of it, for Massachusetts, there's so many of these things that are going on out there. It's very difficult for them to really pursue lots of them for what's really small amounts of money. It may be a large sum to us, but to them, it's not. And it may be, maybe some money that you're not going to be able to get back. Some of the cases that, they've recently dealt with, they dealt with a 76-year-old widow in Rhode Island who transferred more than $660,000 to bank accounts that she belonged to as a U.S. Army general in Afghanistan. In Oklahoma, 10 Nigerian and U.S. citizens were indicted in a fraud ring targeting multiple victims in 3 states. A grand jury in Georgia indicted a man accusing of bilking a Virginia woman who had a large trust of $6.5 million.
Wow.
Here's a brief synopsis of a real case that's been going on. It was printed in the New York Times last March, and the victim was, fortunately for her, one of the luckier ones. She knew a man online as James Gibson, and he was leaving for Europe, and he suddenly called the victim saying that his Netflix card had expired, and he really wanted to watch movies on the plane. So he asked her if she'd go to Walmart and would she get him a $100 Netflix card. This is $100. She developed a relationship with this guy. So she goes, okay. So she went, she bought the card, she called James, and she read the number back to him, and he got what he needed. 3 days later, he calls again. And this time he told her that he left an expensive bag of tools in the cab once he landed wherever he was going. And he left his tool bag there. They were worth $4,000, but he found replacements for $2,600. And if she could just send him the money, he'd pay her back when he got a chance to get access to his funds because he had left the country. She stopped for a moment. She took a break. She had a cup of coffee, and she wondered why an international traveler like this new romance in her life had no credit card or an employer willing to help him. So when he called back, she announced to him, "You're scamming me." She hung up and she blocked him from being online with him. And she next posted about that fraud on Facebook and Nextdoor, and other women came forward also and said that they had also been similarly defrauded and that they were humiliated to tell anyone. That's what they play against us, is that they try to, so you think, oh my gosh, how could I be so foolish? How could I be so naive that I would buy into this? And the fact that you're embarrassed by it, you don't want to tell anybody. And that's the worst thing that we can do. We have to tell our friends, we have to tell our COAs, we have to tell everybody, because we have to get the word out, because getting the word out will stop somebody else. And you shouldn't be humiliated by that. They're really good at what they do. And they can, if they talk to you long enough, they're going to get something out of you.
I can totally see how this can happen so easily, just being a trusting person. But how can we protect ourselves from this type of scam?
Yeah, I mean, once again, like with every scam issue that's going on, especially now during COVID, when you're probably online now more than you were normally because you're probably home and, you're very careful about where you go and who you meet with. The scammers are experts, and everybody, and I mean everybody, is susceptible to becoming a victim. So watch out. What are the warning signs? When somebody starts professing love really quickly that you've never met face to face, when they claim to be overseas for business or they're in the military, when they start asking you for money and they try to lure you off that social media site, when they claim that all of a sudden there's an emergency and, hospital bill, travel, something came up unexpectedly, and they need money and they need your help. They plan to visit you, but they can't, because all of a sudden there's an emergency. Every time they plan a visit, there's going to be an emergency. The way you can protect yourself, as in anything, in any relationship or any online relationship, go slow. Ask questions. And if somebody seems too perfect, I mean, there's not too many perfect people out there. I've only met a couple myself. I'm sure there are some, but if they seem too perfect, or if they quickly ask you to leave the site, that should get your guard up. That should start you thinking about, well, why does he want to do that? Or why does she want to do that? Beware if they try to isolate you from your friends or from your family, or if they request inappropriate photos or financial information that, you know, they can later use against you. You know, they can use for the purposes of extorting you or try to get money out of you. Never send money to somebody you haven't met in person. You know, be leery of the dater, the pro date who wants to set up those meetings though. You got to be careful on both sides of it. You know, always consider that this approach might be a scam, particularly if you see some of these signs. You just got to go slow and be vigilant. Try to remove, and I know it's hard, you got to try to remove your emotion from the decision-making process. No matter how caring, no matter how persistent, no matter how that person is with that, you got to be really careful. Do an image search on Google to see if that picture is associated with somebody else. Usually they're not using their own picture, but the picture they'll get is be like a male model, a 60-year-old male model who looks like he's 40. You know, there's not too many of us out there. You know, so you can't, you got to be careful with that. You know, be alert to things. If it's international, look for spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. The story, remember, they're not just talking to you, they're talking to other people. So there's going to be inconsistencies in these stories. It's not going to be a smooth run of information. So they're telling you something right now, and they talk to somebody later on, and maybe they tweak the story a little bit. When they come back to you, they might be a little bit different. Just listen to what they have to say. You know, their camera's never working, so you can never see them. You can never virtually see them. You just have a hard copy of a photo. You know, doesn't smell right. Be cautious when you're sharing your personal photos or your videos with your prospective partners. If you do agree to meet a prospective partner, tell your family, tell your friends. If it's legitimate, there's no reason to keep it secret. There's no reason you shouldn't go and meet this person for the first time with your friend or your family member. Why not? This is a person you've allegedly developed a relationship with online. Why would they care if you met them for the first time? And once again, be wary of, you know, requests for money. Never send money, never give credit card information or bank information to anybody. Never agree to transfer money for somebody else. You don't want to be the middleman of a money laundering scheme. They're going to funnel money through you. And all of a sudden, you are just online trying to meet somebody, and you have man A trying to have you send money to man C. And it's being funneled and cleaned through you, so to speak. Don't do that. Be careful what you post online. Because, you know, I mean, a lot of people feel they have to put everything on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, Twitter, or whatever it may be. Whatever you put out there, that's what they're going to use. You gave them the information to figure out what maybe you're interested in. You know, maybe you're interested in horticulture, and, you know, and all of a sudden this guy is the biggest flower guy going, you know, and he knows that you are because that's what you put on your Facebook. You know, so like I said, they're not stupid. They do their work, they do their groundwork, and they're going to try to, you know, bait the hook and lure you in the boat. That's what it is. They're fishing you in. And that's why you have to be very careful with that.
District Attorney Cruz, what should we do if we think we have been a victim of romance scam?
Well, Ken, the first thing is stop communicating with the scammer immediately. You don't need to talk. If you think you've been a victim, stop talking to them. And like I said earlier, don't be afraid of the embarrassment or potential humiliation. Talk to somebody you trust. Tell them what happened, you know, and they'll be able to remove themselves and look at it objectively. You know, you're too subjective. You're going to be in it too deep, and you're not going to really see it, I don't think. And that's how you get in trouble. Talk to them, report it. If you believe you've been scammed, report it to your local police, report it to the FBI, the Federal Trade Commission. It's important to do that. The police can help you out with that also. If you go on our website, PlymouthDA.com, all that information is on there. You know, access to get information to go to the next step. Report it to the social media site that you met them on also. You know, let them know that there's somebody out there that's scamming, because like I said, if they're scamming you, they're scamming somebody else. Give them that scammer's profile name and any other information or details that you might have as pertains to what that person is doing in order to try to stop them from scamming somebody else. And if you think that that somehow they've got your credit card numbers or your bank account, call your credit card company or your bank and check it immediately. And if necessary, you cancel the card and get a new card. They'll give you a card with new numbers.
Okay. District Attorney Cruz, you mentioned that these scammers will take on the identity of military personnel. Can you expand on that a little deeper, please?
Yeah, unfortunately, scam artists are using the names and profiles of soldiers, because I think people have a respect, a trust for our military and admiration. And I think that puts people up on a higher level right when you're starting off. And military public relations will often post information on their soldiers without mentioning, their families, their personal lives, and their photos are easily in a position to be stolen. I know, I have a son in the service right now, and the public relations put stuff out about him, and they put it in local papers, the things that he's accomplished or done. And there very well may not be pictures to that. So you may not know. The photos that they put out there can be stolen by the organized internet gangs that, once again, they don't operate, they're not operating in our county. They're operating out of Nigeria. They're operating out of Ghana. They're operating out of some other country. And these internet crime gangs appear to be less formal than the mafia type gangs that you may be familiar with from television. They're very organized along familial lines, along ethnic lines. In addition to the fact there's 250 distinct ethnic languages in Nigeria, that makes it incredibly difficult to trace. So these gangs are, once again, they're less susceptible to being infiltrated in investigation from law enforcement. And once again, they're going to use military personnel profiles and pictures to say that they're lonely, they're supporting, they're good guys or good gals, and they're supporting orphanages with their own money out of their own pocket. And, they don't make a lot of money because they're in the service. They need financial assistance because they're in a combat zone. They don't have access to their money. The scammer is always going to be asking money to be sent to a third party so they can collect it. Sometimes that third party is real. Probably more likely than not, it's fictitious. They're going to ask that money be wired, be a Western Union or MoneyGram. They're going to set up secret passphrases and responses with the victim. The scammers know that the funds sent via Western Union or MoneyGram don't have to be claimed by showing any ID. So a secret passphrase and a response is all they need to receive that wired money. And this money can be picked up anywhere in the world once you drop it off. And sometimes they're going to be asking, scammers going to be asking for a certain Bitcoin, which, if you don't know, is a digital currency that they can receive, through an app on their phone. So, I mean, they certainly know what they're doing. And, if somebody that you've met online is asking you for Bitcoin, I don't know. I haven't seen too much Bitcoin currency floating around, other than what's out there online. So the most important thing we can do is stay vigilant from this, be aware of the fact that there are people out there who are looking to take advantage of people who maybe feel lonely or feel alone. And they're going to be out there, and they're out there. This is their job. Their job is to get what you've worked for your whole life. So be careful with it, because if you're not careful with it, and if you are in a position where you give money out to these individuals or through one of these groups or agencies, more likely than not, we're not going to get your money back. And the chances are very slim that we're going to catch them.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, District Attorney Cruz, for taking time to speak with us today. This is great information, and you're such a valuable resource for the senior community. If there's some place that our viewers can go to get additional information, where would that be? And who in your office should they talk to?
Yeah, Joanne. Obviously, if something of an urgent nature, we always have an on-call assistant DA that you can always call at 508-584-8120, and that person can come and talk to you immediately. However, if you're looking for information or numbers, on our website, PlymouthDA.com, all of our numbers are there from all the different groups that we work with, whether it be dealing with the variety of things that we deal with in our county on a preventative aspect. All of our numbers and information's out there. And just go there. And like I said, if you can't find what you want by some chance, I think everything's there. But if it's not, if you can't find what you're looking for, call 508-584-8120. We have on-call ADAs, assistant DAs, and they're going to be able to direct you to what you need or what we can potentially do. So, Joanne, Candy Marie, thanks so much for allowing me to come on. It's so important that we get these words out there before something happens. So we'll all persevere through this pandemic. Everybody stay safe, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Great.
Good,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our district attorney once again for doing this show with us today, and Marie and Candy for being our guests also. The questions were really great and insightful, and the information is so important to share with our community. We know this happens, we've seen it happen, and we've shared the information with our local police. I'd like to take opportunity to thank all our home visitors who are tuning into this show today. And this wraps up this episode of our Senior Safety Series, and we look forward to seeing you soon again. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.